Apple made it easier than ever to pick the iPhone 15 Pro Max this year. Apple's top-of-the-line model fixes all the flaws of the previous iPhone model, starting with a new titanium body that above all makes the phone so much lighter. And then you have a brand new zoom camera and a battery life that can make Android phones jealous. Sure, the iPhone 15 Pro Max remains the most expensive of the iPhone 15 bunch with a new starting price of $1,200. But in this video, let's see if it has convinced us that it's the phone for most people. The new 5x zoom camera is impressively stable. The USB-C port is a quality of life upgrade that you will appreciate a lot in the long run, and you also get quite a few other new features including a brand new action button. The iPhone 15 Pro Max comes in a very slim box, which is nice, but that also means that there is no charging brick in that box as always. Hardly a surprise, but still worth noting. What you do get in the box is a braided USB-C cable in white, but do keep in mind that this is a USB 2 cable, while the iPhone itself supports the USB 3 standard. So if you want to use these faster transfer rates, you would need to purchase a USB 3 cable separately. It's no shock that we get a new processor this year, sure. However, the new Apple A17 chip has earned a new name. Not Bionic, it's called the Apple A17 Pro. It now allows for USB 3 speeds for data transfers over the USB-C port, 10 gigabits per second or 20 times faster than USB 2.0 and Lightning. The iPhone 15 Pro Max looks very much like iPhone 14 Pro Max before it, but there are some notable differences. 1. The frame is now a brushed titanium finish, so no more smudges on a stainless steel frame. Secondly, the bezels around the iPhone 15 Pro Max's screen are noticeably thinner, making the entire phone ever so slightly smaller. The rest is as it should be. A massive camera bump with 3 lenses on the back, a flat metal frame, and a screen with a dynamic island cutout on the front. The combo of power and volume buttons are also untouched, but a staple of the iPhone, the mute switch, has been removed from the iPhone 15 Pro series. Instead, we get a new action button that works similarly to the one found on an Apple Watch Ultra. By default, the action button will still function as a mute switch, but you can also customize it to do various actions upon holding it down. Turn on the flashlight, open an app, enter a focus mode. But best of all, you can use the Shortcuts app to do literally anything and everything. Some clever suggestions include setting the action button to run the Google Assistant and starting a Spotify playlist. And we are looking forward to your ideas in the comments. As for that USB-C port on the bottom, it is here thanks to European legislation rather than Apple's own will. But that's for the better, as it means the end of cable clutter. The colors this year are even more muted and non-intrusive than before. We now have a raw titanium color to celebrate the new build material, but all other shades are also titanium themed. The iPhone 15 Pro colors are natural titanium, white titanium, blue titanium, and black titanium. The iPhone 15 Pro Max sticks to a 6.7-inch OLED panel as before, and yes, it still has the dynamic island cutout we first saw on the 14 Pro series. We get to enjoy that 120Hz ProMotion refresh rate, the always-on feature, which used to be a bit too on, but iOS settings now let us tone it down, and super high brightness capabilities for watching HDR video in any situation. There was no upgrade to the peak brightness this year, but that's fine. 2000 nits peak is still plenty of light, more than you would typically need. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has the familiar triple camera with a LiDAR system and now uses its internal room to house a new 5x zoom lens. The iPhone 15 Pro Max comes with a 48 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide, and a 12 megapixel 5x zoom telephoto lens. Of course, that 48 megapixel sensor was introduced with the iPhone 14 Pro series and was a leap from the 12 megapixel of before. But this year, Apple improved the way it processes data from that sensor. Instead of taking 12 megapixel photos by default, we now get 24 megapixel pictures for more detail without sacrificing light data thanks to upgraded photonic engine and HDR algorithms. The telephoto lens now has a tetraprism design, which allows for a 5 times optical zoom. That's an upgrade over last year's 3 times. When you punch in the digital zoom, the iPhone 15 Pro Max can go up to 25 times, which is up from the previous model's 15 times. When it comes to zoom capabilities, Apple added a new tetraprism lens to help in zooming far distances, like the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. What about zoom levels between 1x and 5x, especially for portrait shots? Well, Apple is very confident in its ability to harness the power of the 48 megapixel sensor to give us lossless zoom, not only 2 times 48mm, but also at 1.2 times 28mm and 1.5 times 35mm. These are super popular focal lengths, and you can even set your iPhone to default to say a 1.5x mode, which is definitely something we will do. You can definitely see a big improvement in quality at 5x and 10 times zoom levels with clean detail and excellent stabilization, so shots turn out crisp both during the day and in low light. You can now also shoot 48 megapixel photos in HIF instead of RAW, which is much more storage efficient. And thanks to the USB 3 port, videographers can record 4K 60 FPS footage in ProRes straight to an external storage device for easier transfer of work files. One thing that has not changed much is the ultra-wide camera, which still takes 12 megapixel shots, so it does not quite have the impressive detail of the new main camera. If we were the betting kind, we would bet on an upgraded ultra-wide camera in the next iPhone 16 Pro series. Selfies are another area that has remained mostly the same with some tweaks to skin tones and HDR processing, but nothing major. The main camera captures clean, detailed shots in low light with improvements to smart HDR. The ultra-wide camera captures similar photos with some slight improvements. With the 5x camera, you win some, but you also lose some. Notice that at 3 times zoom, the level of detail is quite low simply because you no longer have a 3x lens on this phone. But when you go to 5x, the quality is really improved, and even at 10x in nighttime conditions, you get plenty of good picture, even if it has some noise. When it comes to video quality, the iPhone 15 Pro Max remains unbeaten. You get super crisp footage with excellent video stabilization at up to 4K 60 quality. And that new 5x zoom lens is incredibly well stabilized, and thanks to its larger aperture, you can even get some shots with it in low light. But of course it's grainy in the dark. It's still a small sensor after all, and the ProRes quality is just really impressive. Of course, that remains a very niche and pro feature. ProRes video is ginormous, and just 1 minute can take nearly 15 GB of space, but those who care about video will absolutely love it. Another year, another new chip for the iPhones. It is called the Apple A17 Pro this time around. But this time, it's an even bigger jump up than usual, with a 20% faster GPU that now provides for hardware-accelerated ray tracing and a 10% improvement in the performance cores of the CPU. The Apple A17 Pro is the world's first 3nm smartphone chipset. Long story short, the NM here signifies transistor size. Smaller transistors mean you have more room on the chip. Plus, the pathways between them are much shorter. So, you get more transistors that can do more work, but transfer information to one another with less energy needed. That's why we say it will be more energy efficient, more calculations for less battery drained. In theory, in real-world testing, the improvements are indeed very significant, but we did notice that the phone can get a bit warmer than usual with these higher speeds. Apple does not talk about RAM on its phones, but we know we have 8 GB of RAM now. A small bump over the 6 GB in the iPhone 14 Pro, which will help with multitasking. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has powerful hardware capable of running games like Assassin's Creed and Resident Evil. As for storage, the 128 GB base variant is gone. The iPhone 15 Pro Max starts from 256 GB, then goes up to 512 GB and 1 TB. Don't be quick to celebrate though. Apple did not upgrade the lowest tier, it removed it. This means that the iPhone 15 Pro Max now starts at $1,199 for 256 GB. We also get Wi-Fi 6E on the Pro models for the fastest Wi-Fi protocols. Pro Max battery for a Pro Max life. The iPhone 15 Pro Max comes with a 4,422 mAh battery, a very slight increase over the 4,323 mAh battery on the 14 Pro Max, but that phone already was a marathon runner. We put the 15 Pro Max through the paces using our independent tests, and here are the exact battery life numbers we got. As you can see in the lighter web browsing test, the 15 Pro Max lasts just as long as its predecessor, but in more demanding conditions like on our YouTube test, the 15 Pro Max lasted less than the previous model. The iPhone 15 Pro Max may have USB Type-C, but Apple is in no hurry to add some kind of crazy fast charging. We get the same 27 watts power draw on the wire and 15 watts charging with a MagSafe puck. We still don't get reverse wireless charging, which is a bummer. The iPhone 15 series is also ready for the new Qi 2 wireless charging standard, with the first pucks ready to hit the market by the end of 2023. It's basically no different for iPhone users. It sticks with magnets and charges with 15 watts. The iPhones always have a clear, detailed sound with a noticeable bottom end and a V-shaped EQ. They sound good, but have been beaten out by other premium devices like Asus's excellent phones, or even the Xperia 1V, which may sound a bit boxy, but doesn't distort in the high end like the iPhones sometimes do. All that said, there are no big changes to the iPhone 15 Pro Max speakers. As for haptics, don't fix what's not broken. In the case here, it's the Taptic engine, which has been excellent for years now, and has been the standard in how phone feedback should feel. At the end of the day, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is another upgrade cycle in the TikTok style, not to be confused with TikTok. And while it's not huge if you're coming from an iPhone 14 Pro Max, it is very noticeable if you're on an older model. iPhones are predictably solid, but this year Apple has pushed the boundaries with the lighter weight, the big camera upgrades, and the new USB-C port. But has the company done enough to convince you to buy it? Let us know in the comments. Till next time, thanks for watching.